PointyStarVio here. I'm going to be talking about the Star Seraph engine. I might have talked about the cards, I'm not certain if I did, but they're the two cards that have kind of been appearing in a lot of people's decks recently, which is the Scepter, which is, you can search for the chair, and the chair that, or Sovereignty, which says if you summon a card, you can special summon it and draw a new card, and if it happens to be one of these cards, you can summon it. So, I'm going to be talking about what I think it is for the game, and what I think about the cards in general. I've had a lot of people say positive, negative things, like Drew on Exile Enigma, or whatever he is at this point. He changed his name a couple times. He said, it sucks. It's only good in very specific decks, but it's not the best engine. And in some decks that require their normal summon, it's not as strong. As well as some people who are saying it's the greatest next best thing and you gotta be worried about it, all this craziness. I personally, I think it's an okay thing. In terms of, if we refer to the Hat deck, Hat had hands, trap tricks, fire fist sometimes, artifacts, all these different engines that they just stuck together. Why not add this one in? And in terms of that, or running it in any kind of deck, it is a really strong or solid idea to be able to put this 6-card engine that pays for itself in the deck. And a lot of decks don't need their normal summons per se, because you can special summon a lot using a lot of decks, such as Dolls can special summon using fusion cards, and then just waste or blow their normal summon on this, and then use the other cards as fusion targets for later. Now, the way that the deck kind of runs in all these other decks, you gotta be able to work this 6-card engine into it, and the Dolls were the #1 way to be able to run this, because extra light monsters are targets to fuse with, and everything else is just free XYZ and draws, which is something the deck likes. Do I think that this is good for the game? I'm going to say no. Being able to pull out cards like Ouroboros or Delteros really easily are not something that the game wanted. Tellers should have been the only card that could pull out Delteros easy, and Ouroboros is just a really interesting card. Why am I saying it's not good for the game per se? It's just because being able to plus 1,000,000 in free monsters is a little bit bad, but I'm not trying to say it's a bad card or bad quote-unquote in total, because it does offer a 6-card support for loops, and it doesn't actually break the game in any way. All it does is make things a little bit harder. I don't like it when people can run a lot of anything, as if you remember I didn't like hands per se. Like, I loved the idea of the hands, but once they started getting thrown in everything, I started having issues. I think gimmicks like this are good if they can be used in 1 or 2 decks, but when people start splashing in everything, I feel like it's not as good, because people are losing the creativity I like to cling on to. If there comes a point when everybody is using something, Konami likes to take it out because it stops being useful. That's why we don't have Pot of Greed anymore. That's why we don't have like these power cards. It's not because they're super powerful, it's because absolutely everyone would use it, and it stops being a point of who has it, like who that everyone has it so it's fair. It starts being who has it first and how you can win with it. Imagine if we had Shockmaster here. You would get a plus 1,000,000 off of a card that says your opponent can't play the game. That's not good. That's something that OCG's been having, which is something terrible. I feel like, at the same time, it's a little bit less good for us because we have to use cards like Ouroboros. Now, in decks that don't need to use the normal summon, this card will be better. But in decks that need the normal summon to be used, people are starting to play it because everyone else is playing it, and it stops you from using your deck the way it needs to be used, or it makes it so you have to stall for a turn to use this card, and the amount of plus it does and how it pays for itself is really, really strong. But I think that's what makes it almost quote-unquote too good for the game. I feel like, myself, I would like to see the Scepter or the chair. Personally, I feel like if they limited the chair, it'd be a little bit better, because if they limited either one, only certain decks would be able to even think about using it, as opposed to everything being able to splash it in like they're trying to do right now. Like, I could easily take my Dolces and splash this engine in there. Free extra monster, free targets to banish, there's really no downside. I could take windups and splash it in there. Free monsters, free XYZs of my choice, plus, once again, free draws. All of this is worth it, but it's a waste of a normal summon in terms of how the deck's supposed to function, and I feel like Konami doesn't like this. That's how I feel and how I see on the card. I know a lot of you guys are here for the facts, and the facts on this is Konami doesn't like it when everyone uses something and stops playing their game the way they intended. I feel like the Scepter or the Sovereignty is going to be limited at some point. I don't know if it's going to be right away or if it's going to be a while down. I know Dolls in Japan lost Construct because of this card, so who knows what they're going to do here, if they're going to punish Dolls or if they're going to do other things. I just feel like it's not a bad combo, and if it's used in the right deck, it shouldn't be bad. But the fact that every deck is trying to play it, that's what makes me stop liking the card. So tell me what you guys